Discover the touching story of a black mechanic who changed everything in just 30 days. Elijah stood in the heart of Detroit, grease under his nails and the familiar hum of engines filling the air. His mechanic shop, Elijah's Garage, was more than a place to fix cars, it was a refuge for his community. The smell of fried chicken and the laughter of kids playing outside spilled in through the open bay doors. Every day, he watched as neighbors came in, faces lined with worry, and left with hope renewed one repaired vehicle at a time. The neighborhood had its struggles. Deteriorating streets and abandoned houses loomed as threats to the vibrant pulse of the community, especially with the controversial new development on the horizon, threatening to erase the very businesses that had been lifelines for families. But in Elijah's shop, sparks of resistance flew as voices united around grease-stained workbenches. One day, as the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue inside the garage, his late grandfather's stories echoed in his heart. A proud veteran who had taught him about dignity and perseverance, Grandpa had always said, "A man's worth is in his actions, son." Elijah felt that weight every time he helped a neighbor in need, every time he refused to let despair win over hope, but just as he embraced his role as a pillar, his estranged brother Marcus stepped back into his life. It was like a storm disrupting a calm sea. He brought energy, ambition, and a suggestion that sent chills down Elijah's spine. Abandon the shop for a corporate job. It promised stability, but at what cost? Each proposition Marcus made felt like a rift, pulling at the bond they had shared. "Simon, man. Think about it," Marcus urged one evening, his hands gesturing animatedly. "You could have a real future, instead of barely scraping by." Elijah's heart raced. The thought of leaving his home felt like betrayal. "What about our people? What about the community that needs us?" He replied, feeling tightness in his chest, yet, the stakes were higher than ever. One fateful afternoon, a sudden storm blew in, threatening to tear apart everything they had built. Winds howled, rain lashed, and chaos reigned. When the storm cleared, devastation lay scattered across the neighborhood. Homes wrecked, streets flooded, spirits shattered. Elijah's hands shook as he stepped outside. But he took a breath, the smell of wet earth grounding him. He rallied his neighbors, organizing cleanup efforts and making sure everyone had what they needed. Laughter turned to tears, but through the tears came shared stories, shared strength. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days passed, the brothers faced their unsaid words. Exhaustion hung heavy, and tensions boiled over. Marcus started to understand the depth of Elijah's loyalty to their family and community. Was chasing corporate success worth sacrificing everything they had built together? With sunlight breaking through once more, the storm had passed. But what about them? Would they find a way to bridge the gap between dreams? A fragile hope lingered, beckoning as they each struggled with defining their futures. The neighborhood was healing, but the brothers were left standing at a crossroads. Would they seize this chance for reconciliation before it slipped away for good? Elijah stood silently in front of the garage, the sounds of the neighborhood filtering in like an old, familiar song. Children were playing, their voices mingling with the clatter of tools and the occasional rev of a car engine. But beneath the surface, the wounds from the storm still stung. The destruction had pushed everyone to the brink, and as he watched the neighborhood rally to rebuild, a sense of unease twisted in his gut. "Man, you've got to talk to him," Ruby, his longtime friend, said as she joined him outside. Her hands were busy wringing a rag, the expression on her face reading both concern and determination. "You and Marcus can't keep dodging each other forever." Elijah sighed, the weight of Ruby's statement settling heavily on his shoulders. "It's complicated, Ruby. I'm here for the community, but he just sees money. He doesn't understand. Maybe he doesn't understand because you haven't given him a chance to, Ruby countered, her eyes narrowing slightly. Have you really listened to what he wants? This could be an opportunity, Eli. For both of you. He stared at the asphalt street, his mind grappling with the fractured bond between him and Marcus. He thought of their childhood, the late-night talks under the stars, the dreams they once shared while flipping through car magazines. How had it come to this? Later that night, the weight laid on Elijah like a blanket. Yet, in the shadows of doubt, he found a flicker of courage. All right, he said to himself, it's time to face this head-on. So he picked up his phone and texted Marcus. "Let us talk," was all he wrote. The next day, tension buzzed in the air at Elijah's garage as he set up a workbench outside. He scanned the street, heart racing. What would he say? He wanted to protect everything they had built. Maybe Marcus would listen. Maybe this was the moment they could start to heal. When Marcus arrived, out of breath and a little rumpled, Elijah could see the same fire in his brother's eyes that reminded him of their childhood. They exchanged tentative hellos, both unsure how to begin. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "I can't just watch you struggle, Eli." His voice was low but intense. "I want more for us. I thought we could build something bigger, something that lasts." "I know, bro. But this place, it means more than just a job. It's home. Our community needs us." Elijah took a deep breath, holding on to the hope that maybe they could meet in the middle. "Then let us build it together," Marcus suggested. "We can upgrade the garage, reach out to more folks. You said it yourself. This is a lifeline. What if we could take it to the next level?" The flicker of hope grew brighter, igniting something inside Elijah. They started to sketch out ideas. A partnership was beginning to form, built on what each of them valued. As they talked about electric cars and community workshops, Elijah felt a sense of rekindled brotherhood between them. Just then, their conversation was interrupted by a familiar face, Mr. Thompson, an elderly man from down the street. He approached them, wearing a warm smile. "Boys," he said, "I heard you're raising the bar around here. I might have a few ideas to share." As Mr. Thompson joined in, a wave of excitement washed over Elijah. It felt like they were standing on the brink of something significant, something promising. Not just for the garage but for the whole community as well. But just then, a shadow loomed on the horizon. The construction site, once quiet, began to rumble to life. Heavy machinery moved in a foreboding reminder of the impending changes they were up against. Elijah's heart raced again as he exchanged glances with Marcus. "We've got to move fast," he knew. "This is bigger than any one of us." But as the machines roared to life, all Elijah could think was, would they have enough time to protect everything they held dear? Elijah's mind spun as he watched the heavy machinery invade the stillness of their neighborhood. He could feel the ground trembling beneath his feet, a nasty reminder of how quickly things could change. Panic tugged at him, unsettling the fragile optimism he started to rebuild with Marcus. "Do you see those machines?" Elijah muttered, his voice a tight whisper. "They don't care about our plans, our dreams, they just tear things down." Marcus clenched his jaw. "We can't let them take it away from us, Eli. Not without a fight." Mr. Thompson nodded along, his expression serious as he studied the equipment. "Maybe it's time to rally the community. Show them what this garage means to us all. They can't bulldoze our spirit." Elijah felt a spark flicker in his chest. There was power in unity, he knew that well. With determination, he turned to Marcus and Mr. Thompson. "Let us put together a meeting. We get the neighborhood together and lay it all out. If we want to save this place, we need everyone on board." Ruby strolled by, overhearing their plans. "Count me in. I'll spread the word. If the kids can rally together to save a tree in the park, we can certainly stand firm for our garage." Her enthusiasm was infectious, and with each word, Elijah felt his resolve strengthening. As they made a plan for their community meeting, urgency hung thick in the air. Flyers were printed, designs sketched out, and ideas bounced happily between them like well-oiled gears. Each interaction breathed fresh air into their vision. Elijah could already see a town concert in the yard, a place for families to gather and reconnect. That night, Elijah lay in bed, casting nervous glances toward the garage that stood just outside his window. The familiar creaks and groans felt more like a solid promise than just a structure. He pictured it, kids laughing, families sharing food, and perhaps even the local musicians playing heartfelt songs. He swallowed hard, the weight of hope settled among the chaos in his heart. Fingers fumbling through his phone, he scrolled through the contacts. He hesitated before tapping Marcus's name. It felt strange and yet familiar, like coming home after a long journey. With a quick series of taps, he sent a message. "Tomorrow, we're going to win this. Together." The reply came swiftly, "I'm ready. Let us show them what we're made of." The next day arrived, clear and bright. Tension danced in the air as the three men set up for the meeting, tables lined with chairs, community members filtering in, voices low but eager. As friends and neighbors filled the garage with warmth and laughter, Elijah took a deep breath. "This is it," he thought, glancing at Marcus, who stood just a few feet away, letting out a nervous smile. Mr. Thompson took the lead, encouraging everyone to share their stories, their memories tied to the garage. As the voices grew louder, a collective heartbeat began to form. Elijah felt the stirrings of hope blend into the air like song. But just as the building enthusiasm reached a crescendo, the rumble of machinery drowned it out again, a stark reminder that time was not on their side. The ground shook beneath their feet, and as they turned to look, the foreboding sight of bulldozers creeping closer sent a panic through the crowd. Elijah's heart raced. What would they do now? Were they really too late? The unmistakable sound of change loomed over them, but amidst the fear, Elijah found a stronger voice rising. Would they rise to the occasion, or would they watch their dreams be buried in the rubble? As the community looked to him for guidance, he realized this was not just about saving a garage. It was about preserving hope. With that thought, he stepped forward, and as he opened his mouth to speak, the tension in the crowd held its breath. Would his words ignite the spirit of camaraderie they so desperately needed? Elijah stood at the front, feeling the weight of many eyes fixed on him. The rumble of the machines outside faded into a whisper in his ears. He took a deep breath, and for a moment, the chaos around him transformed into a hush filled with expectation. "Everyone," he began, his voice firmer than he felt, "this garage isn't just four walls and a roof. It's laughter, stories, connection, it's us." He could see the uncertainty flicker in the faces of his neighbors, but he also noticed the flicker of something stronger: recognition, maybe. We've hosted birthday parties, family barbecues, even Saturday morning pancake breakfasts right here. These walls hold more than memories, they hold our community. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. Seeing it fueled him further. The city may see it as just a building, a spot to put up another housing complex, but we know better. We can't let them erase our history. We can't let them erase our future. Applause erupted suddenly, loud and hearty, washing over him, igniting the dim light of hope that had flickered in his heart. Marcus stepped up, his stature a beacon of strength. "We've got a chance to show them who we are. We'll write letters, make signs, anything we have to do to make our voices heard. This place matters." With each passing moment, the tension transformed into unity. Ruby stood and waved her arms for attention. "Let us organize. We can have demonstrations, a block party right here, invite everyone and show them how much this means to us." Her enthusiasm sparked excitement among the crowd. Elijah matched her energy, feeling the stir of hope pushing away the shadows of doubt. "Yes. Let us gather signatures. We can show the city that this garage isn't just a building, it's the heart of this neighborhood." The room buzzed with renewed vigor. People began talking amongst themselves, voices growing animated, plans woven together like strands of a strong rope. Elijah smiled, feeling the warmth of a movement igniting. They wouldn't give up without a fight. Every person in that garage was proof of the power they held when united, but then, as if the universe wanted to remind them of the urgency, a loud crash echoed down the street. Everyone paused, fear creeping back in. The bulldozers were advancing closer, the vibrations underfoot a reminder that time was slipping through their fingers. Elijah's heart sank, threading through his mind like a thick fog. They needed to act. We've got to make noise and fast. Let us gather everyone we can and make our stand. Each of us matters. Together we matter. With that, the room erupted in affirmations. Voices filled with passion rang out like music, a chant that resonated in the atmosphere. The spirit of determination wrapped around them, tightly woven. They began crafting signs, each colorful with slogans and messages about community spirit. Laughter and camaraderie replaced panic, and a sense of purpose flowed through the room. Each brushstroke, each word on their signs was like a little battle cry, a fight against the darkness that threatened to erase them, yet, deep down, Elijah felt a flicker of anxiety. What if it wasn't enough? Just then, someone tugged at his sleeve. It was a young boy he recognized from the neighborhood. "Is this really gonna work, Mr. Elijah?" Elijah bent down to meet his wide eyes filled with hope and doubt. "We're going to do everything we can, okay? Together, we're stronger than any machine." Giving the boy a reassuring smile, Elijah stood up and watched as people poured out of the garage. Collectively, they marched forward, signs held high, voices ringing through the air. This was their moment. But standing at the edge of the crowd, one question loomed heavy in the back of Elijah's mind. Now that they had taken their stand, would it be enough to change the hearts of those in power? Just as the community began to gather momentum on the street, he saw the foreman of the construction crew eyeing them from a distance, dark sunglasses perched atop a no-nonsense expression. What would happen next? Elijah squared his shoulders, his heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of the crowd. The foreman still stood there, arms crossed, his expression impassive. The sight of him sent an electric shock through the air, and Elijah could feel the unease ripple among those gathered around him. "Stay strong," he called out, his voice rising above the murmur. "They're here to intimidate us, but we won't back down." He waved his sign, a handmade piece that squabbled for attention like a child in a supermarket aisle. "This is our place. Our stories. Our lives." With each word, he felt the crowd gather around him, their commitment mounting, their shared determination a tangible force. People exchanged glances, and he knew they were all thinking the same thing. They would stand together. Ruby stepped forward, her fiery spirit kindling the collective will of the neighborhood. "Let us give them a reason to listen. Live music, food, let's make a party out of it right on this street. Show 'em what they lose." The cheers erupted anew, a sound overflowing with energy. Ideas tossed around like seeds in the wind. There was talk of a cookout, of inviting local musicians, of setting up a vibrant display of everything that made their community special. Elijah's heart wavered, a mixture of hope and fear blending together, but the foreman, now apparently unbothered, walked toward them with an air of authority. The machines loomed sentinels behind him as if they were waiting for his command. He smirked, lips curling in disdain. "You think a little noise and some signs are gonna change anything? This city is moving forward and you're just in the way." It hit Elijah like a punch to the gut. The foreman's words echoed in his mind, a dark whisper, and for a second, doubt crept in. But he quickly shook it off. "You don't know us. We're not just noise. We're a family. A community." Someone in the back shouted, "We won't let you take this from us." Another voice called, "This is our home." The chants grew louder, the determination solidifying, and Elijah felt the energy shift from his own heart into theirs, yet, amidst the fervor, a pang of concern tightened in his chest. Was it enough? The machinery of progress often crushed voices like his. As if on cue, the foreman observed the crowd, and his smile vanished. "You want to fight? I hope you're ready, because I'll be taking down that garage regardless." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud. What if their preparations didn't hold up against the looming might of the bulldozers? Elijah closed his eyes for just a moment, envisioning a future void of laughter and love that had once thrived in that garage. When he opened his eyes, he could see the fire still burning in the faces of his neighbors, igniting something deep within him. "We won't fight this alone," he shouted. "Gather stories, gather voices, everyone matters. We're not just losing a building, we're fighting for our lives." Elijah raised his sign high, a call to arms. The crowd rallied around him, a chorus steeped in defiance, arms rising in unity, but in that swirling sea of determination, he noticed a presence at the edge, a figure he hadn't seen before, observing with keen interest. The stranger's expression was inscrutable, leaving Elijah to wonder, who was this person, and what part would they play in the coming storm? As the chants grew louder, Elijah felt the ground beneath him pulse with a new rhythm. Would this newfound resolve be enough to change the tide? Would it be enough to stop the machines from tearing apart everything they held dear? The crowd seemed to swell around Elijah, growing taller and more vibrant with each passing moment. Ruby jumped up and down, her curls bouncing like the hopes of the entire neighborhood, amplifying their shared spirit. "Let's make this bigger. We need a date. We'll turn this block into a celebration of who we are." As conversations erupted around him, Elijah's heart continued to race. He felt almost weightless, his worries momentarily lifted by the energy surrounding him. The stranger at the edge of the crowd shifted, stepping slightly closer, catching Elijah's attention again. There was something compelling about them, something that whispered of curiosity and understanding. With a deep breath, Elijah turned back to his neighbors. "Let's get the word out. Who can help with flyers? We'll hang them up all over. We'll show everyone that this is our home." The hands shot up, people eager to lend their skills. The idea sparked a wildfire of enthusiasm. In moments, people were breaking off to form small groups. One started sketching designs for posters, another was picking out songs for the live music. The vibrations of camaraderie filled the air, helping to drown out the darkness the foreman had cast, but even as excitement swirled, a knot tightened in Elijah's stomach. What if the city didn't listen? What if they shrugged off the gathering as nothing more than a weekend festival? Fear chimed in the back of his mind, a silent dissenting voice against the loud chorus of hope. "Are we enough?" he whispered to himself. "Will this even make a difference?" He looked again towards the stranger, who now seemed to be caught up in their own contemplation, leaning against the wall, arms crossed but an intrigued smile playing on their lips. "Elijah. Come on." Ruby's voice broke through his thoughts. "We need you to help with the baking. Can you do it?" "Yeah, of course," he replied, his internal struggle faltering at the prospect of taking part. He moved to join the others, but the stranger's gaze lingered on him, their eyes met for a moment, and there was an unspoken question between them. Something in that look held promise. Was it solidarity? Or perhaps the very spark that could turn the tide in their favor? Elijah dismissed the thought, shaking it off as he joined Ruby and others preparing the menu for the cookout. As they planned out details, laughter broke out, a melody reminding them of better times. Elijah could picture the tables lined with food, laughter, and soft music echoing off the walls of that beloved garage. It was a small solace in the face of the fierce winds coming their way. "Imagine if we filled the street," one neighbor suggested. "Families from every corner come together. It could be the best party this block has ever seen." Elijah's heart swelled. For a moment, he saw it. They weren't just fighting to save a building, they were sparking community pride, reclaiming their identity. As ideas flowed and plans formed, he started to feel his fears slip away. They were coming together, and perhaps, just perhaps, together they were enough. But as night began to fall, the air shifted again. The foreman's condescending smile lingered in his memory, and that figure at the edge of the crowd now stepped forward. The stranger approached, their hands raised in surrender, but their eyes held something deeper, something Elijah couldn't quite place. "I think I can help," they said, voice steady but uncertain. Elijah felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. What could this stranger offer? And was it the help they so desperately needed, or more complications in their already tumultuous fight? "Who are you?" he asked, suspicion wrapped tight around his words. As the crowd buzzed with energy and anticipation, the stranger's next words could either offer salvation or lead them further into uncertainty. The stranger took a deep breath, their expression shifting from uncertainty to determination. "My name is Kira," they said, stepping closer. "I'm new to the neighborhood, but I've seen what you all are trying to do. And I want to help." Elijah studied Kira's face. There was sincerity etched in every line, but he still felt a twinge of doubt. "Help how?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "You just showed up. Why do you care?" "I care because this community deserves better," Kira replied, their voice ringing with passion. "I work in event planning. I've done it in other neighborhoods, bringing people together to celebrate their culture and fight for what matters." Elijah hesitated. The weight of her words settled into his chest. The thought of making their cause something more than just a block party ignited a flicker of hope. Still, the fire was small, struggling against the bitter winds of doubt. "It's not just a party, you know. It's south about saving this place." "I get that," Kira said, her gaze steady. "But sometimes celebration is the spark we need to drive change. I can coordinate this whole event, draw in attention. But I need your trust and your help." Elijah shifted, glancing back at Ruby, who was animatedly chatting with a group of neighbors. He could feel the warmth of that laughter spreading within him, pushing against fear. But could he trust this stranger? Could he risk the energy they'd built up on someone they barely knew? "Let's give it a shot," Ruby suggested, once she caught the conversation. "If Kira has the skills, we need to take it. Every little bit counts." Elijah looked at Kira again, measuring her resolve against his uncertainty. What if she had the connections they needed to rally people? To create something monumental? A community united, standing against the impending threat. What if this was the missing piece? "Okay," Elijah said, voice firm despite his trepidation. "If we're doing this, we do it together. You lead the way, and we'll support you." The crowd erupted with murmurs and cheers, sharing in his decision their decision. Kira nodded, a grateful smile breaking through. "Let's make this event impactful," she said. "We'll have speakers, food from all cultures, music that tells our stories. We'll showcase who we are." The energy surged again, the shadows of doubt receding into the corners, retreating under the bright light of possibility. They began brainstorming with renewed zeal, each person contributing ideas that bounced back and forth like a game of catch, filling the air with laughter and hope. But as the plan solidified, Elijah felt an awareness creeping back into his mind. The foreman hadn't just made a comment, he'd hinted at a purpose. There were forces working against them, and they might not be kind. As they laid out their strategies, someone tapped Elijah on the shoulder. He turned to find an elderly neighbor, Hannah, her eyes shimmering with concern. "Elijah, dear. You need to know, there's been talk. Rumors that the city plans to shut this down before it even starts." A chill washed over him. Despite the excitement around him, the fight was undoubtedly far from over. The stakes were climbing, as if they had a deadline looming. "How do we prepare?" he asked, his heart racing with the weight of their cause. Hannah held his gaze with fierce determination. "We prepare to fight back together." Elijah glanced around at the faces of his neighbors, their hopes pinned on him, all of them believing in this dream they were cultivating. With so much on the line, they had to act quickly. Every moment, every decision mattered. "I think we need a strategy," Kira proposed, urgency threading through her words. "If they think they can silence us, they're in for a surprise." The crowd nodded, the seriousness settling in like a heavy fog. Just as they gathered to brainstorm, Kira's phone buzzed with an incoming text. She paled slightly, glancing at the screen without sharing what she read. "What is it?" Elijah asked, concern creeping into his voice. Kira took a breath, then looked up, her expression fierce. "I know we can fight this, but we need to. Act fast. Something about her tone sent a shiver down his spine. What did the message say? And was their fight about to take a turn they weren't prepared for? Elijah felt the weight of the moment settle in once more, the thrill of hope now dancing with the shadows of uncertainty. Would they rise together, or was something lurking, ready to tear them apart? Kira's gaze swept over the crowd, and for a moment, Elijah could see the fire in her eyes ignite a spark of determination across the faces surrounding him. The buzz of brainstorming sank into a heavy silence as Kira collected her thoughts. First, she said, her voice cutting through the tension, we need to mobilize. Let us reach out to everyone we know. Get them to spread the word about the event and what's at stake. And we can create a petition, something tangible to present to the city. Elijah nodded, feeling the hope build in the room. Good idea. We can set up tables at the local grocery store and bus stops, post flyers. Whatever it takes. Ruby jumped in, and we should include testimonials. Stories from our neighbors about why this place matters. Everyone has a reason to fight for it. The excitement in the room started to swell, a pulse of energy resonating among them. Elijah felt it, too, the possibility of changing their fate charging the atmosphere. But as Kira began sketching out ideas on a large notepad, his mind raced at the implications of the text she'd received. What was it that made her face drain of color? Right, so we solidify our gathering details, get speakers on board, she continued, the smile returning as she drew big circles on her notes. Music, food. We get the youth involved, and let their voices carry our message. A festival can raise awareness while we display our unity. Elijah watched Kira, her eyes dancing with enthusiasm. But he couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked around the corner. What about the threats? What if the city sends people to shut us down? We can't just throw an event and hope for the best. True, Kira responded, searching his eyes for understanding. But if they come at us, we need to respond with overwhelming support and determination. We can't show fear. If they see we're united, it'll be harder for them to push us around. Hannah chimed in. We can organize a rally before the event. Let the city officials hear our voices. Show them we stand together. Yes. Ruby exclaimed, drawing oohs and ahs from the crowd. A rally will set the tone. We can even get local media involved, share footage of everyone united for the cause. The excitement bubbled over again, but in the back of Elijah's mind, the warning still stung like a bitter chill. As Kira pinned down the rally details, he raised his hand once more. This is good, but we need to be cautious. If there are rumors, we should strengthen our defenses. What if they try to intimidate us or get people to back down? Kira paused, gazing at him with a mix of respect and challenge. Then let that be part of our story. We won't just fight for a party, we fight for our community's future. If that means standing up to intimidation, then so be it. A wave of resolve washed over Elijah. Maybe Kira was right. Maybe the fire inside her was the spark they all needed to ignite their fight. Just then, Kira's phone buzzed again, drawing her attention. This time, her expression shifted from fierce to anxious. She glanced at the screen and paled, almost like she was seeing a ghost. What is it? Elijah pressed, worry knotting in his stomach. Kira hesitated, swallowing hard. I just got a message from a friend in the city. They've caught wind of our plans, and they're not happy. A silence fell, thick with tension. The stakes were rising, and with them, the fear of what would come next. Why would they be against us? Ruby whispered, fear evident in her voice. Because they want to silence us. They see a united community as a threat. Kira replied, her gaze resolute now. But we're going to show them we won't back down. If they want a fight, they've just declared it. Elijah felt a thrill of adrenaline surge through him, but with it, a deep worry echoed in his thoughts. What would that fight look like? Would he be able to protect the people he cared about, the community that felt like family? As they rallied around Kira, the energy pulsed through them anew, but each heartbeat was weighed down by the newfound threat. Would they be ready for the storm that was brewing? Would the strength and unity be enough to hold back the fears encroaching upon their plans? With one last glance at Kira, whose determination never faltered, Elijah steeled himself for what was to come. They'd already taken the first leap. But looking ahead, he couldn't ignore the resolute truth they were standing on the precipice of a battle, and the outcome was far from certain. "Let us make sure we're ready for whatever comes next," Kira instructed. "We're in this together." But as Elijah took a deep breath, something nagged at him. If they rose together, would it be enough to withstand the forces that threatened to rip them apart? Elijah felt the weight of their resolve settle heavily on his shoulders. It was going to be a battle, but the fire in Kira's eyes ignited something deep within him. He could feel the heartbeat of the community around him, resilient and ready to fight for what mattered. "Okay, everyone," Kira's voice rang out, cutting through the thick tension. "We need to assign roles and get to work. This isn't just about a gathering, it's about showing our strength. We're going to need volunteers for everything from organizing the rally to dealing with press coverage." Hands shot up, people eager to contribute. Elijah could see a spark in every face, a shared understanding that this was their moment. "I'll handle the social media," Ruby shouted, practically bouncing on her toes. "What about the permits for the rally?" Someone else shrugged, looking around. A murmur of agreement washed over the group, the realization dawning that they had a long list of logistical hurdles to tackle. Kira glanced at Elijah. "Can you take lead on that? We need to make sure we have everything in order with the city to avoid any last-minute shutdowns." "Sure," he replied, his voice steady, but inside his heart raced. It felt like they were stepping into uncharted territory, unaware of the potential repercussions. As the group broke into smaller teams, Elijah made his way to a quiet corner, trying to ground himself. He opened his phone and stared at the screen, debating whether to reply to Kira's friend. What if they were already preparing to counter their plan? What if the city could crush them before they even took a stand? He shook his head. He couldn't afford to dwell on fear. He had to be a part of the solution, not the problem. Just then, he felt a gentle hand on his shoulder. It was Kira, her eyes searching his face. "Tough decisions ahead," she said softly. The comfort in her voice was tangible. "But we're going to do this together." He nodded, pushing away his fears. "You're right. We'll make it work." With renewed determination, they joined the others, heads bent together as the ideas flowed. Elijah could feel the electricity in the air. Their voices rose, overlapping in a tapestry of conversations that echoed possibility. Later that evening, as the sky faded into shades of orange and deep blue, Elijah stood outside his house, the final plan swirling in his mind. He felt a sense of purpose that he hadn't experienced in a long time. But that what if lingered on the edge of his consciousness. What if they come at us? Slipped out, unbidden, as he recalled Kira's tense expression from earlier. His phone buzzed again, bringing him back from the brink of hesitation. It was a message from Kira. They were set to meet again tomorrow to finalize everything. But beneath the reassuring words was an undercurrent of urgency. They all knew that every second counted. A shadow in the corner of his eye caught his attention. He turned to see a figure watching from across the street, expression unreadable. A chill ran down his spine. "Who are you?" he mumbled to himself, feeling the pulse of adrenaline quicken once more. With a deep breath, he walked back inside, the whisper of danger echoing in his mind. They were mobilizing, bringing their community together, but the reality of potential confrontation loomed on the horizon like a storm ready to break. Tomorrow promised another step forward in their fight, but he couldn't shake the feeling that shadows lurked just out of sight. Were they prepared for all that was coming their way? As Elijah pondered the unknown, he couldn't ignore the question burning in his mind: what if their fight started before their rally even began? Would they still have time to rally together, or would the enemy strike first? The day of the rally dawned bright and vibrant, but beneath the sunlit sky, tension simmered in Elijah's heart. He felt the weight of the neighborhood's dreams resting squarely on his shoulders. As he arrived at the garage, the familiar scent of grease mingled with the tantalizing aromas of food cooking nearby. A sense of hope filled the air, but the shadow of impending conflict loomed larger than ever. People were buzzing, setting up tables with banners that declared their unity. Ruby was already working the crowd, her infectious energy motivating everyone around her to keep pushing. "Make sure those signs are bold," she called to a group of kids gleefully painting slogans. Elijah smiled at their laughter. These were the moments that made him fight. Yet, as the sun rose higher, Elijah couldn't shake the unease creeping into his thoughts. He walked to the garage entrance, scanning the street for signs of the construction crew or city officials. He knew they wouldn't sit idly by while the community gathered in protest. The foreman's smirk haunted him, a reminder that battles often come with unanticipated consequences. Just then, Kira approached him, her expression serious. "The permits are all squared away," but she hesitated. "There's talk that city officials might try to shut us down if we get too loud." Elijah's stomach dropped. "We need our voices to be heard," he said, the determination rowing in his chest. "We can't let fear stop us." Kira nodded, and he could see the fire in her eyes mirroring the one within him. As more neighbors arrived, a palpable energy filled the garage. They came together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, reinforcing not just their community, but each other. One woman brought her famous fried chicken, while a local musician set up his guitar, strumming a hopeful tune that grew louder with every cheer from the crowd. Elijah's heart raced as he climbed onto a makeshift platform at the front of the garage. "Everyone!" he called out, silencing the crowd. "This isn't just a fight for our garage, it's a fight for our future, our stories, our lives. We stand here as a community, united and strong. They can't take that away from us." Cheers erupted, voices carrying high into the sky like a battle cry. The tides of unity surged through Elijah, washing away shadows of doubt. But as he spoke, the sound of tires rolling against the pavement sent chills down his spine. He turned his gaze down the street, and his heart sank. The foreman, flanked by construction workers and city officials, approached with a brigade of machinery behind them. Elijah felt every heartbeat resonate through the silence that fell over the crowd. "We can't back down now," he thought. "This is our moment. Stay together." Kira shouted. "We can do this." Elijah grabbed a sign that read "Our community matters." Holding it high. "Don't let them intimidate us," he shouted, and he was met with a chorus of voices rising in protest and unity. The foreman stepped forward, arms crossed, looking unimpressed. "You call this a protest? You think this little gathering is gonna change our plans? You're just wasting your time." Anger flared in the crowd, but Elijah stepped forward, courage flooding his veins. "We're the heart of this neighborhood. You may have machines, but we have each other, our stories." The foreman scoffed, but the tide was shifting. "You think you're gonna get in the way of progress? This city needs housing, and you're nothing but a nuisance. Then show us the progress you're aiming for." Elijah shot back, his voice steady and fierce. "We can build together, develop it with our community in mind. Let us save our history while moving forward." Silence loomed, but Elijah stood tall as neighbors rallied behind him. Whispers floated through the crowd, shifting from doubt to reflection. "He's right," he heard someone say. "We need to protect our home." Kira turned to Elijah, her eyes glimmering with pride and mutual understanding. "This is it," she whispered, "they're listening." The foreman kicked the gravel, feeling the heat of the gathered crowd. But Elijah didn't let up. "We refuse to let you erase our existence. If you push us away, we'll always find our way back. Try us." In that moment, something clicked. He could sense the shift under the surface. The crowd echoed his words louder and louder, resonating hope and defiance. "Let us show them the power of community." Ruby yelled, and Elijah's heart soared. When everyone joined in, the cacophony of voices surged like a wave, filling every gap with a heartbeat of resilience. The foreman looked caught off guard, but that was the moment Elijah had been waiting for. Give us our chance to be heard. Not just here, but throughout the city. Let us find a solution together. Stepping bravely through the push of the crowd, one neighbor presented a petition full of signed names and stories. We stand together, for our community, for our garage, for our future. Elijah stepped back, breathing hard. He had done it. They had rallied together, turning uncertainty into unity. The construction crew stood in stunned silence while the city officials began to murmur amongst each other, their faces unsure. Then from the back, a voice rang out, "We can work together to find solutions." It was Mr. Thompson, a respected member of their community, stepping forward with dignity, authority, and respect for their shared history. As he continued, the crowd erupted in agreement, building the momentum into something beautiful. Days later, after raucous celebrations and endless correspondence, they gathered at the very heart of the garage. This time it wasn't just hope binding them, but tangible change. The city had agreed to compromises, phasing the construction while ensuring the legacy of their beloved garage would remain intact. With smiles all around, Elijah looked at Marcus standing proudly side by side with him. Their bond had deepened as they fought together, memories of their childhood unraveling stories of love and strength. As the sun set behind them, casting its golden rays upon the garage, Elijah turned to his neighbors, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. "This is us," he whispered. "And together, we've created a legacy that'll extend beyond these walls." The crowd roared in agreement, laughter mingling with joyous tears. It was a day they would never forget, not just because they saved their garage but because they had truly found home. And in that moment, Elijah knew the heart of Detroit was alive and thriving, bound together by a spirit that no machine could ever erase. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending, because your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans understand the power of unity and support. Let's spread the love.